The air hung heavy with the city's heat. Maria dragged her feet, each step a victory against exhaustion. Another double shift at the diner. Another night of worry etched on her face. Her son, Miguel, waited at home. 8 years old, all bright smiles and boundless energy. He was her reason, her strength. But strength didn't put food on the table. Strength didn't silence the landlord's knocks. Maria's apartment was small, 2 rooms clinging to the edge of hope. The faded paint whispered stories of better days, dreams shared with her late husband. Now the silence echoed with his absence, a constant reminder of her struggle. She clutched the grocery bag, its meager contents a symbol of her dwindling options. How long, she wondered, before the weight of her burdens crushed her spirit? The city's symphony of sirens and distant shouts played through the thin walls. Miguel slept soundly, his chest rising and falling in peaceful rhythm. Maria watched him, her heart aching with a mother's love and a parent's fear. Dawn arrived, a pale sliver of light pushing through the window. Another day, another battle. The stranger introduced himself as Mr. Smith. He spoke softly, his words measured and deliberate. He claimed to represent a wealthy businessman caught in a compromising situation. A situation, he stressed, that could be easily resolved with Maria's cooperation. All she had to do was corroborate a story, a small lie about witnessing an incident that never occurred. The reward, he promised, would be substantial. Maria listened, her mind reeling. The amount he mentioned could erase their debts, secure Miguel's future, offer them a chance at a real life. It was more money than she had ever dreamed of, a fortune that could change everything. But something felt wrong. Mr. Smith's eyes held a coldness that belied his smooth words. The lie he proposed, though seemingly harmless, left a bitter taste in her mouth. It went against everything she believed in, the values she clung to in the face of adversity. Could she sacrifice her integrity for financial security? The weight of the decision pressed down on her, heavy and suffocating. The thought of looking into Miguel's eyes, knowing she had betrayed her own values, was unbearable. The silence stretched between them, thick with unspoken tension. Mr. Smith shifted impatiently, his smile faltering. He mistook her hesitation for greed, urging her to name her price. His words were like poison, tempting her with their promise of ease. Maria closed her eyes, taking a deep breath. The scent of Miguel's breakfast, the familiar sounds of their small apartment, grounded her. She opened her eyes, her gaze steady. Looking straight at Mr. Smith, she spoke, her voice firm despite the tremor in her heart. "I appreciate the offer," she said, "but I can't do what you ask." The words felt like a physical release, a burden lifted from her chest. She had made her choice, and with it came a sense of peace that surpassed any financial gain. Mr. Smith's demeanor changed. The charm vanished, replaced by a cold fury. He hissed threats, his voice laced with venom. He reminded her of her circumstances, the precariousness of her situation. His words were meant to break her, to make her doubt her decision. But Maria stood her ground. Her voice, though quiet, held a newfound strength. Honesty, integrity. These were the values she wanted to instill in Miguel, and no amount of money, no matter how tempting, could sway her from that path. Mr. Smith left in a huff, his parting words a threat that hung in the air like a bad smell. Maria closed the door behind him, her hand trembling. She felt a momentary pang of fear, a flicker of doubt. Had she made the right decision? The weight of their situation felt heavier than ever, the future uncertain. She looked at Miguel, his face still sleepy, his eyes filled with unconditional trust. And in that moment she knew she had made the right choice. She had chosen integrity over easy money, honesty over deceit. It was a victory not for her, but for the values she held dear. The days that followed were difficult. The landlord's patience was wearing thin, and the cupboards were emptier than ever. Maria picked up extra shifts at the diner, her body aching with exhaustion. But she persevered, fueled by the quiet strength of her conviction. She had taught Miguel the importance of honesty, and now she was living it. One evening, while walking Miguel home from school, They passed a group of children huddled around something on the sidewalk. Curiosity got the better of them, and they approached cautiously. To their surprise, it was a wallet, plump with cash and credit cards. Miguel looked up at his mother, his eyes wide. "Mama," he whispered, "we can keep it. We need it." Maria's heart ached for her son's innocent plea. She understood his reasoning, the desperation that fueled his words. They were, after all, in dire straits. But she also saw an opportunity, a chance to reinforce the values she held dear. Kneeling down, she met Miguel's gaze. "Mijo," she said gently, "we may be poor, but we are not thieves. This wallet belongs to someone, and we need to return it." Miguel's shoulders slumped, but he didn't argue. Together they tracked down the owner of the wallet, an elderly gentleman who lived a few blocks away. The relief on his face when they returned his lost possession was reward enough. He thanked them profusely, his voice trembling with emotion. As they walked away, Miguel turned to his mother, a question lingering in his eyes. "Mama," he asked hesitantly, "did we do the right thing?" Maria smiled, a warmth spreading through her chest. "Yes, mijo," she said, her voice filled with conviction. "We did the right thing. It's always better to be honest, even when it's hard." That night, as Maria tucked Miguel into bed, he surprised her with a question. "Mama," he whispered, his eyes wide with wonder, "do you think good things happen to good people?" Maria smiled, her heart swelling with love. The next morning, Maria woke to a knock on the door. Her stomach clenched, her mind racing. Was it the landlord again? Had Mr. Smith returned with more threats? Hesitantly, she opened the door, her body tense with apprehension. To her surprise, it was the elderly gentleman whose wallet they had returned the day before. The elderly gentleman stood at the door, a small smile gracing his wrinkled face. In his hands he held a basket laden with fresh fruit, vegetables, and other groceries. His eyes, warm and filled with gratitude, met Maria's. "I wanted to thank you again," he said, his voice raspy with age, "for your honesty. It's a rare and precious quality these days." Maria invited him in, her heart filled with a mixture of surprise and gratitude. She learned that his name was Mr. Hernandez, and he was a retired teacher. He had been deeply touched by their act of kindness, their unwavering honesty in the face of adversity. He had been watching them, he confessed, impressed by their resilience and their strong family bond. Over cups of coffee and slices of sweet bread, Mr. Hernandez shared stories of his life, his love for teaching, and his sadness at seeing the world change. He spoke of the importance of integrity, of the ripple effects that even small acts of kindness could have. His words resonated with Maria, reaffirming her belief that she had made the right choice. Before leaving, Mr. Hernandez handed Maria an envelope. "This is for you," he said, his eyes twinkling. "Consider it a small token of my appreciation." Maria hesitated, unsure whether to accept. Mr. Hernandez gently patted her hand. "Please," he insisted, "it would give an old man great joy." With trembling fingers, Maria opened the envelope. Inside was a check, the amount enough to cover their rent and put food on the table for weeks to come. Tears welled up in Maria's eyes as she looked at the check, her heart overflowing with gratitude. It wasn't just the money, though it was desperately needed. It was the affirmation, the validation that she was on the right path. It was the realization that integrity, like kindness, had a way of coming back to you, sometimes in the most unexpected ways. From that day forward, things started to look up for Maria and Miguel.